Chapter 1. The Fire and the Fallen. A broken world. The war for the planet Tyrolon had raged for over a decade, transforming a once thriving jewel of the Centauri sector into a barren, blood-soaked wasteland. Cities that had once reached toward the heavens with crystalline spires were now reduced to smoldering rubble. Rivers ran red, choked with debris and ash, while the skies above churned with an endless storm of smoke and fire. On the ground, battlefields stretched as far as the eye could see. Armies of humans and Velcrin, a proud alien race known for their bioluminescent skin and fierce warrior traditions, clashed with the relentless machine forces of the Vorthan Dominion. The Dominion was an unyielding enemy, cold, calculating, and seemingly endless. Their mechanical soldiers moved with terrifying precision, their crimson optics sweeping the battlefield for any signs of life. Amidst this chaos, a lone human soldier fought to survive. The lone soldier. Captain Orion Cross was no stranger to war. A veteran of countless battles across the galaxy, he had earned a reputation for his resourcefulness and determination. But even he felt the crushing weight of the conflict on Tyrolon. His unit had been ambushed 2 days earlier, leaving him as the sole survivor. Now, he wandered the ruins of a once great Velcrin city, scavenging for supplies and evading patrols of Dominion drones. The city's shattered streets were eerily quiet, save for the distant hum of Dominion hovercrafts. Orion moved cautiously, his plasma rifle at the ready. He was clad in battered combat armor, its once shining surface now scarred and blackened. His helmet's HUD flickered with warnings: low ammunition, limited oxygen reserves, and a steadily declining power supply. Just another day in paradise, he muttered under his breath, his voice muffled by his helmet's rebreather. As he turned a corner, his boot kicked something metallic. Looking down, he saw a discarded Velcrin ceremonial blade. Its hilt glowed faintly with blue light, a testament to the energy that still coursed through it. Orion picked it up, examining the intricate carvings along the blade. "A shame," he said quietly. "Your owner probably didn't make it." He sheathed the blade in his belt, a small token of respect for the fallen. The sound of desperation. Orion's ears pricked up as a faint noise reached him, a muffled cry, barely audible over the crackle of distant fires. He froze, his instincts taking over. Scanning the area, he saw no immediate threats, but the sound came again, more distinct this time. "Help." The voice was weak, trembling, and unmistakably Velcrin. Orion hesitated. He had been trained to prioritize survival, to avoid unnecessary risks. Yet something about the voice stirred something deep within him, a sense of duty that refused to be ignored. Cautiously, he followed the sound, his rifle raised. The cries led him to a collapsed building, its entrance blocked by twisted beams and rubble. Kneeling, he peered through a small gap and saw a figure trapped inside. It was a Velcrin woman, her bioluminescent skin dim and flickering with faint pulses of light. She was pinned beneath a heavy beam, her movements weak as she struggled to free herself. "Hold on," Orion called out, his voice firm but reassuring. "I'll get you out of there." The rescue. Using his rifle as a lever, Orion pried the beam off the woman, his muscles straining under the effort. As soon as the weight was lifted, she gasped for air, her luminous eyes meeting his. She was young, perhaps in her mid-20s by human standards, and her features were striking sharp and elegant, even beneath the grime and blood that covered her. "Can you stand?" he asked, offering her a hand. She hesitated, her expression guarded. "Why? Why would you help me? You are human." Orion frowned. "Does it matter? You needed help." The woman studied him for a moment before nodding. "Thank you." With his support, she managed to stand, though she winced in pain. One of her legs was injured, the deep gash glowing faintly with bioluminescent blood. "We need to move," Orion said, his voice low. "This area isn't safe." The woman nodded, her gaze flickering with a mixture of gratitude and caution. "My name is Liara. I owe you my life." "Orion," he replied, "and you don't owe me anything. Let's just get out of here alive." The pursuit. Their progress was slow as they navigated the ruined streets, with Orion supporting Liara's weight. The city was eerily quiet, but Orion's gut told him they weren't alone. His suspicions were confirmed when a sharp, mechanical screech echoed through the air. He glanced back to see a Dominion drone emerging from the shadows, its crimson optics locking onto them. The machine raised its weapon, and Orion barely had time to pull Liara into cover as a burst of plasma fire scorched the wall behind them. "Stay down!" he shouted, returning fire. His shot struck the drone, but its armor absorbed most of the impact. Liara, though injured, wasn't defenseless. She extended her hand, and a pulse of bioluminescent energy shot from her palm, striking the drone's weapon and disabling it. Orion took advantage of the distraction, landing a precise shot to the drone's head. It collapsed in a shower of sparks. "Impressive," Orion said, helping Liara to her feet. She managed a faint smile. "I am not entirely helpless." More drones appeared, their screeches filling the air as they converged on the pair. Orion gritted his teeth, his mind racing. They couldn't hold their ground against so many. "This way," he said, leading Liara down a narrow alley. They weaved through the ruins, the drones in relentless pursuit. A glimpse of the truth. They finally found temporary refuge in an old Velcrin temple, its ornate walls still glowing faintly with ancient runes. Orion barricaded the entrance as Liara collapsed against a pillar, her breathing labored. "We can't keep this up," Orion said, reloading his rifle. "They'll find us eventually." Liara looked at him, her expression serious. "There is something you should know." "What?" he asked, his tone impatient. "Unless it's a plan to get us out of here, I'm not sure now's the time." Liara hesitated, then said, "I am not just another Velcrin. I was, the heir to the throne." Orion froze, staring at her. "Your royalty?" She nodded. "The Dominion targeted my family first. They wanted to break our people's spirit by taking away their leaders. My family, they're all gone. I am the last." Orion's mind raced as the weight of her words sank in. "So if they find you, they will ensure I do not survive," Liara said, "and my people's hope will die with me." Orion exhaled, his determination hardening. "Then they won't find you. Not while I'm around." The escape plan. As the drones closed in on the temple, Orion and Liara prepared for a desperate escape. Liara used her energy to create a temporary barrier, while Orion rigged an old Velcrin explosive device to collapse part of the temple and slow their pursuers. "It's not much," Orion admitted, "but it'll buy us time." Liara placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm despite the cold air. "You've done more for me than anyone else would." "Thank you." Orion met her gaze, his resolve unwavering. "We're not done yet." As the first drone breached the barrier, Orion triggered the explosive, the blast shaking the temple to its foundations. He and Liara slipped through a hidden passage, the echoes of the explosion masking their escape. Chapter 2. A Queen in Hiding. Into the wilds. The temple's collapse masked their escape, but the danger was far from over. Orion and Liara emerged into the dense wilderness that surrounded the ruined city, their breaths heavy with exertion. The air was cooler here, and the canopy of alien trees created a dim, green-tinged twilight. The sounds of the Dominion's drones faded behind them, but Orion knew better than to let his guard down. "We can't stop here," he said, glancing back at Liara. "They'll be searching the area." Liara limped beside him, leaning on a makeshift crutch Orion had fashioned from a fallen branch. Her bioluminescent glow was dim, her exhaustion evident. Still, she pressed on without complaint. "I know of a place," she said between labored breaths. "An old safe house my family used during times of war. It's hidden deep in the Nyrith Glade." Orion nodded. "How far?" "Half a day's journey on foot," Liara replied. "But the glade itself is treacherous. The Dominion won't dare follow us there." "Then that's where we're going," Orion said. "Let's move." A treacherous path. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the terrain grew more challenging. The ground was uneven, and tangled roots threatened to trip them with every step. Strange creatures rustled in the underbrush, their glowing eyes watching the pair from the shadows. The trees whispered with an eerie hum, their bioluminescent leaves pulsating like beating hearts. "Your forests are unsettling," Orion muttered, scanning the area with his rifle at the ready. "They are alive," Liara said, her voice tinged with reverence. "The Nyrith Glade is sacred to my people. The trees are connected to the Valen Vale, an ancient energy that binds all life on Tyrolon. Orion raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a fairy tale. It's more than that, Liara insisted. The veil is real, and it's why the Dominion wants this planet. They seek to harness its power. Figures, Orion said, shaking his head. They don't destroy worlds, they strip them for parts. Liara's expression darkened, but she said nothing, her gaze fixed on the path ahead. A test of trust. As they walked, Orion noticed Liara growing weaker. Her injuries and the strain of their journey were taking a toll. Finally, she stumbled, collapsing to her knees. "Hey," Orion said, rushing to her side. "You can't push yourself like this." "I'll be fine," Liara insisted, though her voice was shaky. "We have to keep moving." Orion frowned, setting his rifle aside and kneeling in front of her. "You're not fine. Let me help." Liara hesitated, clearly unused to relying on others. But as Orion pulled out a small medkit from his pack, she relented. He worked quickly, cleaning and dressing the wound on her leg. Her bioluminescent blood shimmered faintly in the fading light. "This might sting," he said as he applied a coagulant. Liara winced but didn't pull away. "You're surprisingly gentle for a soldier." Orion smirked. "Just because I know how to fight doesn't mean I like seeing people hurt." For a moment, their eyes met, and Liara's guarded expression softened. "Thank you, Orion, for everything." "Don't thank me yet," he said, standing and offering her his hand. "We're not out of this mess." The Nyrith Glade. As night fell, the pair finally reached the edge of the Nyrith Glade. The forest gave way to a vast, open expanse filled with shimmering, silver-blue plants that seemed to sway despite the lack of wind. The air was thick with energy, a subtle hum that resonated in their bones. "This place is incredible," Orion said, his voice hushed. "It is sacred," Liara said, her glow brightening slightly as they stepped into the glade. "The veil's presence is strongest here. My family often came to meditate and connect with our ancestors." Orion scanned the area, his military instincts kicking in. "And you're sure it's safe?" Liara nodded. "The Dominion fears the glade. They believe it's cursed." "Let's hope they keep believing that," Orion said. "Where's the safe house?" "Follow me," Liara said, leading him toward a cluster of ancient, moss-covered stones. The stones formed a circle, their surfaces etched with intricate carvings that pulsed faintly with light. Liara placed her hand on one of the stones, and the carvings flared to life. A hidden door slid open, revealing a staircase that descended into the earth. "This way," she said, stepping inside. Orion followed, his rifle at the ready. The air grew cooler as they descended, and the faint hum of the veil grew louder. At the bottom of the staircase, they entered a chamber filled with relics of Velcran history, ornate weapons, ceremonial armor, and glowing crystals. Liara walked to the center of the room, where a large, crystalline sphere floated above a pedestal. She placed her hands on it, and a cascade of light enveloped her. "What are you doing?" Orion asked, his voice wary. "Connecting to the veil," Liara said. "It will restore my strength." The Queen awakens. As the light surrounded Liara, Orion watched in awe. Her injuries began to heal, and her bioluminescent glow intensified, filling the chamber with radiant light. When the light faded, she stood taller, her presence commanding. "You weren't kidding about being royalty," Orion said, a touch of humor in his voice. "You look the part now." Liara turned to him, her expression serious. "The veil has shown me visions. The Dominion is preparing to strike a final blow against my people. They mean to end this war by wiping out the last remnants of Velcran resistance." Orion's jaw tightened. "Then we'll stop them." Liara hesitated. "You've already done so much for me. I cannot ask you to risk your life for my people." "You didn't ask," Orion said, his tone firm. "I'm volunteering. Someone has to stand up to these bastards, and it might as well be me." Liara's gaze softened. "Thank you, Orion. With your help, we may stand a chance." A new purpose. As they prepared to leave the safe house, Liara retrieved a ceremonial blade from the chamber. Its hilt was adorned with glowing crystals, and its edge shimmered with energy. "This blade belonged to my father," she said, handing it to Orion. "It is a symbol of leadership. Carry it with honor." Orion accepted the blade, his expression solemn. I will. Together, they stepped out into the Nyrith glade, ready to face the challenges ahead. For Orion, this mission had become more than just survival. It was about protecting something greater. And for Liara, it was a chance to reclaim her throne and restore hope to her people. Chapter 3. The Call to Arms. A dangerous journey. The Nyrith glade offered a brief respite for Orion and Liara, but the knowledge of the Dominion's impending attack left little room for comfort. With Liara's strength restored and her connection to the Valen Vale renewed, they set out to locate the remnants of the Velcran resistance. The Dominion's fleet is mobilizing near Chiron Ridge, not far from where the resistance was last seen, Liara explained as they trudged through the forest. Her voice carried the calm authority of a leader, but Orion noticed the flicker of worry in her eyes. Chiron Ridge, huh? Orion said, glancing at the holographic map projected from his wrist device. That's rough terrain. Perfect for hiding and for an ambush. Liara nodded. The resistance has survived this long by staying hidden. But if we don't warn them, the Dominion's next strike will be their last. Orion tightened his grip on the ceremonial blade Liara had given him. Its energy pulsed faintly, a comforting presence in his hand. Then let's make sure they hear us. Rallying the resistance. It took them 2 days to reach Chiron Ridge, navigating treacherous cliffs and narrow paths carved into the mountains. Dominion drones patrolled the area, forcing them to take detours and remain hidden. Orion's military training and Liara's knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable, allowing them to avoid detection. When they finally arrived at the Resistance's hidden encampment, they were met with suspicion. Velcran warriors, their glowing skin dulled by exhaustion, surrounded the pair with weapons drawn. Their leader, a grizzled Velcran named Valor, stepped forward, his eyes narrowing at Liara. "Who are you to trespass here?" he demanded. Liara removed her hood, letting her bioluminescent features shine. Gasps rippled through the crowd as recognition dawned on the warriors' faces. "I am Liara Velker, heir to the throne of Tyrolon," she declared, "and I have returned to lead my people." Valor's expression shifted from suspicion to shock. "The princess? We thought your family was lost." "They are," Liara said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "I am all that remains. But as long as I live, Tyrolon's spirit will not be extinguished." The warriors exchanged glances, their hope rekindled by her presence. Valor bowed deeply. "Your Highness, we are at your service." Liara turned to Orion, a faint smile playing on her lips. "We're off to a good start." Preparing for battle. Over the next few days, the encampment transformed into a hive of activity. Liara and Orion worked with the Resistance to develop a plan to repel the Dominion's attack. The ceremonial blade Liara had given Orion became a rallying symbol, its glow inspiring the warriors to fight. "We'll lure the Dominion into the Crimson Pass," Liara explained during a strategy meeting. A holographic map of the region hovered above the table, its terrain marked with tactical points. "The narrow canyon will limit their numbers, and the Vale's energy is strong there. I can use it to tip the balance in our favor." Orion nodded. "We'll need explosives to collapse the canyon walls once they're inside. That'll trap their main force and give us a fighting chance." Valor grunted in agreement. "It's a bold plan. Risky, but bold." As the warriors prepared for battle, Orion trained alongside them, sharing techniques he had learned during his years as a soldier. Liara, meanwhile, spent hours meditating, strengthening her bond with the Vale. The air in the camp buzzed with a mixture of fear and determination. The calm before the storm. On the night before the battle, Orion found Liara standing at the edge of the camp, gazing at the stars. Her glow was soft and steady, a stark contrast to the turmoil they faced. "You should be resting," Orion said, joining her. "So should you," Liara replied, her tone light. Orion shrugged. "Can't sleep. Too much on my mind." Liara turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "Are you afraid?" "Always," Orion admitted. "But fear keeps you sharp. It reminds you what's at stake." Liara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "My father used to say that fear is the root of courage. Without it, there is no need to be brave." "He was a wise man," Orion said. "And you've got his strength." Liara smiled faintly. "And you, Orion Cross, have a warrior's heart. I am grateful the Vale brought you to me." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of the coming battle faded. Then a distant rumble shattered the silence, a reminder that their time was running out. The battle begins. At dawn, the Dominion's forces arrived, their machines casting long shadows over the canyon. The resistance was ready, hidden among the rocks and trees. Liara stood at the forefront, her presence a beacon of hope. The Dominion's drones entered the Crimson Pass, their mechanical limbs clanking as they advanced. Liara raised her hand, and the warriors sprang into action. Explosions rocked the canyon, sending debris raining down on the enemy. Blaster fire lit up the battlefield as the resistance fought with everything they had. Orion was in the thick of it, his rifle blazing. The ceremonial blade at his side pulsed with energy, and he used it to deflect incoming shots with surprising ease. "This thing's got some tricks," he muttered, slicing through a drone. Meanwhile, Liara stood at the heart of the battlefield, her connection to the veil manifesting as a swirling aura of light. She unleashed waves of energy that disrupted the Dominion systems, turning their machines against each other. But the Dominion wasn't without its countermeasures. A massive walker entered the canyon, its cannons blasting through the Resistance's defenses. The sight of it sent a ripple of fear through the warriors. "Orion!" Liara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to take that thing down." "On it," Orion called back, rallying a group of warriors to follow him. Using the terrain to their advantage, they climbed the canyon walls and planted charges on the walker's joints. The resulting explosion sent the machine crashing to the ground, earning a cheer from the resistance. Victory and loss. As the last of the Dominion's forces retreated, the canyon fell silent. The resistance had won, but the cost was high. The battlefield was littered with the fallen, their sacrifice a stark reminder of the price of freedom. Liara knelt among the wounded, her hands glowing as she used the veil's energy to heal those she could. Orion approached her, his armor scorched and battered. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "We did it," Liara corrected, meeting his gaze. "This victory belongs to all of us." Valor approached, his expression solemn. "Your Highness, with this victory, the people will rise. The Dominion's hold on Tyrolon is weakening." Liara nodded. "Then we must press on. This is only the beginning." A new beginning. As the resistance regrouped, Liara addressed her people, her voice ringing with conviction. "Today, we have shown the Dominion that Tyrolon will not be broken. We fight not just for survival, but for a future where our children can live in peace. Stand with me, and we will reclaim our home." The warriors cheered, their spirits renewed. Orion watched from the sidelines, a sense of purpose swelling in his chest. Liara approached him, her expression soft. "You've done more for me and my people than I could ever repay." "You don't owe me anything," Orion said. "I'm just glad I could help." Liara smiled. "Then stay. Help us finish what we've started." Orion hesitated, then nodded. "All right, let's take back your planet." As the sun rose over the Crimson Pass, Orion and Liara stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 4. Reclaiming the Throne. The Final Stand. The victory at Crimson Pass gave the Resistance new strength, but Liara and Orion knew their fight was far from over. The Dominion's forces were regrouping at Velcra Citadel, the ancient stronghold that had once served as the heart of Velcran rule. Now, it was the Dominion's command center, a fortress of steel and fire. "This is where we make our stand," Liara declared to the Resistance leaders as they gathered in the dimly lit war room. A holographic map of the citadel floated before them, showing its towering spires and fortified walls. "The Dominion has taken everything from us, our cities, our families, our hope, but they cannot take our spirit. Today, we take back our home." The warriors murmured in agreement, their bioluminescent skin glowing faintly in the darkened room. Valor, the grizzled commander, stepped forward. "We'll need a distraction to draw their forces away from the main gate. My squad can handle that. I'll lead the strike team inside," Orion said. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the weight of the decision. "We'll disable their defenses and clear the way for the main force." Liara placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm despite the cold air. "And I will join you. This is my fight as much as yours." Orion hesitated but nodded. "All right, let's finish this." the assault on Velcra Citadel. At dawn, the Resistance launched their attack. Valor's squad struck first, setting off explosives along the Citadel's perimeter and drawing the Dominion's forces into the open. The sky erupted in fire and smoke as the defenders scrambled to contain the chaos. Under the cover of the distraction, Liara, Orion, and a small team of warriors slipped into the Citadel through an underground passage. The air was damp and cold, the walls lined with ancient carvings that had been defaced by Dominion machinery. "This place was once a sanctuary," Liara said softly, her voice tinged with sorrow. "Now it's a prison." "Not for long," Orion replied, his rifle at the ready. They emerged into the heart of the Citadel, a vast chamber dominated by the Dominion's command center. Machines hummed and whirred, their crimson lights casting eerie shadows across the walls. At the center of it all stood the Warden, the Dominion's ruthless leader. His towering, cybernetic frame exuded menace, and his glowing red eyes locked onto the intruders. "So, the last Velcran queen returns," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Fitting that you should witness the end of your people." "Your reign ends today," Liara replied, stepping forward. Her glow intensified, and the air around her seemed to hum with energy. The Warden laughed, a metallic, hollow sound. "Foolish girl, you think your veil will save you? I have harnessed powers beyond your understanding." He raised a massive, clawed hand, and the room filled with the whirring of Dominion drones. They descended from the ceiling, their weapons aimed at the Resistance fighters. "Get ready," Orion shouted, raising his rifle. The battle within. The chamber erupted into chaos as the Resistance clashed with the Dominion's forces. Orion moved with practiced precision, his rifle picking off drones with deadly accuracy. Liara stood at the center of the fray, her connection to the veil manifesting as waves of energy that disrupted the drone systems. The Warden, however, was unstoppable. His cybernetic limbs allowed him to move with terrifying speed, and his strength was unmatched. He tore through the Resistance fighters, his metallic claws leaving devastation in their wake. "You cannot win," he roared, slamming a fist into the ground. The impact sent shockwaves through the chamber, throwing Orion and Liara off their feet. Orion scrambled to his knees, his grip tightening on the ceremonial blade. Its energy pulsed, as if urging him forward. "Liara, can you weaken him?" She nodded, her glow intensifying. "I'll try, but I need time." Orion charged at the Warden, the blade slicing through the air. The Warden deflected the attack with his armored forearm, sparks flying as the blade struck metal. "You are nothing human," the Warden sneered, swiping at Orion with his claws. Orion dodged, his movements fueled by sheer determination. "Yeah, well, I've been called worse." The Queen's power. While Orion kept the Warden occupied, Liara focused her energy, drawing from the veil. Her hands glowed with blinding light, and the air around her crackled with power. She extended her arms, sending a surge of energy toward the Warden. The blast struck him in the chest, forcing him to stagger. His systems flickered, and his movements became erratic. "Now, Orion!" Liara shouted. Orion seized the opportunity, lunging forward with the blade. The weapon pierced the Warden's chest, embedding itself in his power core. The Warden let out a mechanical roar as his body convulsed, sparks flying from his limbs. "This isn't over," he growled, his voice distorted. With a final burst of energy, he collapsed, his body crumpling to the ground. The chamber fell silent, save for the hum of the veil's energy. Reclaiming the throne. With the Warden defeated and the Dominion's command center disabled, the remaining Resistance forces stormed the Citadel. The Dominion's ranks crumbled without their leader, and the Velcran warriors reclaimed their ancestral stronghold. Liara stood on the Citadel's highest balcony, overlooking the battlefield. The sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden light over the ruins of the city. The Resistance gathered below, their cheers echoing through the air. "This is only the beginning," Liara said, turning to Orion. "There is much to rebuild, but we will rise stronger than ever." Orion smiled, his armor battered but his spirit unbroken. "You'll make a great queen." Liara stepped closer, her gaze soft. "And you will always have a place here, Orion, as a protector of Tyrolon, and as my friend." He nodded, his heart swelling with pride. "I'll stay. Someone's gotta make sure you don't get into too much trouble." Liara laughed, the sound a rare but welcome reprieve from the chaos of war. Together, they looked out at the horizon, ready to face the challenges ahead.